What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth to a special post-game edition of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin and is presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, and that is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app and platform you are listening to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__Ant. That's pro 2 ANT. In this post-game edition of Disguise Coverage, we will be breaking down the Buffalo Bills Week 2 preseason victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I say we because I'm not alone on this post-game edition. If you are watching on YouTube, you've already figured that out. Or if you read the episode description ahead of time, you've already figured that out. But just in case you're on the audio only and you didn't read the episode description, you did not know, I am joined by Mr. Good Evening himself, Greg Tompsett. Greg, I mean, we chopped it up offline because we were going to buy Joe Andreessen jerseys, and then got a little distracted in that. But we'll get to that in a minute. How you doing? How you feel about this victory? Good times?
Good. Yeah, I apologize. We were almost late because I was checking under my bed because Joe Andreessen's everywhere. And I was just
I almost did that.
nervous.
That's a good one. That's another good one. Well done. Well done.
It's unbelievable. We're going to talk a lot tonight, and I'll go out on a limb and say an inappropriate amount of it is going to be about Joe Andreessen. But we'll talk about other things as well. But it's deserved. It's wild. I joked with you pre-show. I joked with fans online. I was certainly aware of him as a player. I even acknowledged to people, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I grew up in a time where Josh Roth was my Joe Andreessen. Josh Roth was a fullback who played at Pine Valley, which is a school right by me. He was a big monster fullback. He's actually now like a championship UFC wrestler and owns a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym.
Oh, wow.
And runs marathons and weird stuff. He's a crazy athlete.
I was waiting for like one more thing and be like, and he killed a guy.
Yeah, and you know, with the hands tied behind his back. But in high school, he was like a 240-pound jackhammer of a fullback. And this was like early 2000s where fullbacks were still like a thing.
Yeah,
with the
where they still mattered.
Like
no disrespect to fullbacks.
Yeah, you know, when they still like mattered.
Yeah.
You know, when they look like Lorenzo Neal still.
Yes, good call. And Sam Gash.
Oh, okay, so he's just gorgeous. And he was that guy for me where it was like, oh, this is really cool. And he was in camp each year and he made the practice squad one year and even, you know, kind of had a cup of coffee and it was cool. It was like really, really fun to have a guy from the area who played at UB, who went there. I know, Steve Mathis brought up John DeGiorgio earlier. We've had, you know, there's all kinds of names you could throw out there. And obviously recently, Jamarcus Ingram and Cam Lewis, and we've had guys around. But I'm not going to pretend I thought that's all this was. And that it was like, oh, this is cool. Like it's a Lancaster kid. You know, he won games at Highmark Stadium in high school. You know, played college ball and then transferred to UB and played there and played pretty well. Yeah. And that's really fun. It's nice of them that they gave him a camp invite and, you know, good for him. Like that's a really cool experience. He'll get to tell people that he went to training camp for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I wasn't being rude or dismissive. That's all it was. Like I didn't think there was anything else here. And I didn't, like people were asking me during the game once it started, like, oh, like, why is he making a play every other snap?
Yeah.
And people all of a sudden were asking me like, oh, could he play Will linebacker? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that I know his position versatility and like what skills are going to translate. Like I knew he's a linebacker. That like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So this is really, really fun. We were joking offline. If people don't know, like this literally is the Tommy DeVito story. Like he's living at home with his parents in Lancaster. Like you were joking, like he's gonna go home and his mom's got some stuff warmed up for him in the microwave. Like
on a plate.
Like he's literally driving to camp each day from his parents' house in Lancaster. Like this is such an amazing story. His mom needs to market chicken cutlets immediately. Like One Pie Pizza needs to call the Andreessen household. tonight, like right now. Like you need to text them during my next rambling monologue and tell them, hey, you need to get a hold of the Andreessen family and get out in front of this right now.
Yeah, that one was the one that blew like my mind, because similar to how kind of you're talking about it, like they brought him on as UDFA, and the Buffalo thing was cool, but just UDFAs don't really make squads a lot. Like, they're usually used to kind of just fill out the roster and give you some kind of camp fodder and just have bodies for the preseason and so on and so forth. Like, it's just hard for those dudes. It's hard for late day 3 guys to make it, let alone UDFA guys, which you're going to lump into that conversation, but potentially can be further down the totem pole. And I saw that signing and I was like, okay, cool. Like, good for him. Like, that's awesome. And I knew he was from UB, but I didn't know, like you said, like, I didn't know any of that other stuff. I didn't know he went to Lancaster. I didn't know he was like a Buffalo guy, which also puts into perspective, like, the Buffalo Joe nickname thing that Alan talked about during the broadcast, puts that into, I just thought it was, because he went to UB and now he plays for the Bills. It's like, no, he's from Buffalo, like going to Lancaster. And yeah, just, and again, you and I were talking offline. He had a couple nice plays last week against Chicago. Yeah. Nothing that kind of made you go like, you know what? They got something here. It was just like, okay, cool.
Enough that when people, because there have been people who have been excited about the idea for a while, enough that I was like, you want to know what? Maybe he could push somebody for a practice squad spot. I won't be shocked if he pushed somebody, but like that was it.
Yes. I like this comment from RJ, who said Sam Gash would be an all-pro guard today. That's very good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, Lorenzo Neal will be like a star guard or like left tackle. That's very good. I like that. But you just like, you saw some flashes, and I thought some of what he did tonight, he showed last week. Like, he's got a quick trigger and he shoots well, but it just goes to show you, like, if you give certain guys opportunities, and, the injury to Milano, when kind of the rest of the linebacking core being banged up in different phases, all of a sudden it kind of pushed him up to the depth chart to get an opportunity to start next to Dorian Williams. And he legitimately made the most of it, to the point of, I think people, I made a joke, and I forgot who tweeted it, but it was like, Andreessen's been pulled at this point in the game. And I was like, of course, like, you don't play your all-pro, linebacker in the fourth quarter. But, it's nice to see those dudes make something of the opportunity they get. And he did make the most of his opportunity tonight. I loved your, we were talking offline, you being out of town, you get the NFL Network broadcast of whoever the home team is. And you were like, Charlie Batch didn't know any Bills players' names, but he knew Joe Andreessen's by at that point in the game.
He had Daquan Hardy and Joe Andreessen. Those are the 2 names that he could cling to. Frank Gore Jr. Like, those were the 3 names that he was real solid with. But every play is like, and the Bills safety makes he didn't know any players' names.
No idea.
So one quick point before we actually do talk about some of the other players on the football team here. Rightfully, there are going to be a lot of people, and there were some guys in the chat being like, "Hey, let's get off of these try-hard guys. Like, it's not a thing." And we will settle this down a lot. Like, anybody who's joking about him like starting and things like that, settle down. So settle down.
So I shouldn't have bought my jersey.
We'll see. The reason I think we need to take this a little more seriously than some of the other fun try-hard stories we've had in the past, because there's been a lot of them. There have been a lot of fun try-hard stories, is he started today. That's a thing. So they could have started Deion Jones. They could have started, Adefua and Ulufosio. They could have started, Ulufosio and Andreessen have been here the same amount of time. They're both rookies. Like, it's not like Ulufosio didn't start because he's a rookie. They could have started Deion Jones, who was still playing in the fourth quarter and was a guy that Joe Marino and I talked about Thursday night about, like, hey, maybe that's the break glass in case of emergency option in case Dorian Williams isn't ready. They started him today. So that means this is more than just the couple of flashes that you and I saw against Chicago or in the blue and red scrimmage of like, oh, hey, this kid's around the ball. Like, he knows where to go. When he has the read, which is something we've talked about with Dorian Williams plenty, when he makes the read and the diagnosis is right, he fires his gun and he's coming quick and ready. And, we'll get into the rest of the stuff, but there's no play better or more indicative of that than the 4th and 2 with Justin Fields. Like, if you watch, like, don't watch any of the rest of the noise or movement, just watch him and watch how immediately he diagnoses Fields is keeping and goes
And
like
once he
freaking
diagnoses,
rocket.
shot out of a cannon once he diagnoses.
Yes.
And then you get a really nice box in from Jamarcus Ingram, and it allows Andreessen to close down. And like, I know Fields isn't running full speed at that point, but it's hard to close down Justin Fields. Like, he
Justin
outruns
Fields,
a lot of
this
people.
is not making a play on Ben DiNucci. This is not
No.
making a play on a guy who's going to be off a roster. Like, Justin Fields was debated as a franchise quarterback last year.
Yeah.
And talk real quick here about something else. One other reason. So the two things we need to give people, besides the awesome story and him going home to his mom and warming up some chicken cutlets tonight,
that, yeah.
is one, he started. That's
Mhm.
real. That's not like a guy making cool plays in the third and fourth quarter of a preseason game. He started over guys that we have as roster projections or roster locks. That is a thing. The second is when these guys who get a fun story, you know, whether it can be real or not, it goes to like, well, are they playing way over their head or do they have NFL caliber athleticism? Talk a little bit about what this means.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people throw up those RAS scores. Actually, wait, hold on. I don't want to lose this because you'll like this. I didn't want to lose it. So the Calgary Mafia talking about Charlie Batch said he called Jamarcus Ingram DeMarcus Ingram, and it was Christian Benford who actually made the play. Like, I just loved that summary of like what Charlie Batch was.
He said Jamarcus Ingram wrong, and it was Christian
Yes,
Benford.
that was just so good. I didn't want to lose it in the chat, so I wanted to grab it real quick. I thought that was very good. So if you just needed to know how it was going for Charlie Batch,
that was my night. Everyone who got to watch the Bills broadcast, me watching the NFL Network home team, which is what they do, and my Charlie Batch, that was a perfect synopsis of my night.
That was great. That's why I started that for you. I was like, I got to pull this up. So these RAS scores get pulled up a ton, especially during the draft cycle, and I think a lot of it is often misleading for people because I think it makes people think, especially for players they don't know, like they see a RAS score and they're like, oh my God, like it's out of 10. This guy has a 9.35, must be an amazing athlete. He's probably a really good player, but there's so much more that goes into it. And especially like knowing where they're green and where they're good. And if you look at Andreessen and match it to like how he played tonight, like you see the 40-yard dash, which is good, like 4.64, and the 20 isn't terrible, but his 10-yard split is tremendous at 1.59. And that helps when you're, I don't know, maybe diagnosing and then quick trigger shooting gaps like he was all night. Yeah. You see the vertical.
That means you have a gun to fire. That's what that means.
Yes. And you see the vertical and you see the broad. And that's just not like, oh, cool, dude can jump. No, those are also measures of like explosion and burst and juice to your game. Even the shuttle and what he can do. I think the 3-cone is accurate too, where it's not great, but it's not bad. He's not the best change of direction dude, but he can get it going when he fires and he shoots. And he was doing that all night. There were a couple plays too where he shot gaps and missed the tackle, but he shot it so quickly that he gummed up the works and someone else finished. Like him and Dorian had a couple of those. Like he shot and missed. Dorian cleaned it up. Dorian shot. Dorian missed. Andreessen cleaned it up. But you saw legitimate, like, not only just play recognition and diagnosis, but the speed and the clicking and closing ability. And it matches and pairs well when you look at his RAS scorecard like you pulled up here.
So two things real quick here before we move on. One, the Steelers ran the ball a ton tonight. So Adam's question, how is Andreessen in coverage? That's going to be a big piece here. We did see him diagnose some screens. We saw him diagnose some read option. Yeah. We need to go back and see how he did. Because one, we're going to talk about it on the Bills side. When you don't have great quarterback play, it's tough to diagnose receivers. It also means it's tough to diagnose coverage because we don't know who got exposed because there were some plays where Fields and Wilson.
I refuse to speak on coverage fully until I've seen the all 22. Like it's just not like.
I will say I didn't see him chasing from behind on guys who were roasting him down the field, but we also weren't seeing some surgical passing offense here. Yeah. That needs to be left for analysis. And I will say, you talked about it. I saw, I don't know if like missed tackle is the right term because I don't know how it'll get scored.
Or broken tackle.
Yeah, where he wasn't able to finish, or some where he was diving and swiping at the ankle. You know, it doesn't mean he was like in position to make the play, but he was, diving and swiping at the ankle. And I did see one read option that he bit badly and took the fake give went with the running back while Fields was running the other way. So I did see him take the cheese once on a misdiagnosis. So I don't want to say like it was all perfect or anything like that, but when you're in on 12 tackles, 7 solos, a couple really nice, like perfectly diagnosed plays, there is no other definition other than he had an excellent game.
I think that's very fair. And yeah, we'll kind of start with that linebacker position, since it is the talk of the town, or Andreessen's the talk of the town, and kind of tying into the talk of the week with Matt Milano having the torn bicep and being out till roughly December. Shout out to Cover One for breaking that story, and certain people acknowledging it and others not acknowledging it, which is always very fun to see. But in all seriousness, with the Andreessen play, like, and I wonder too, if Spector doesn't have a calf injury, like, does Spector start alongside Dorian tonight, which is, I kind of think, probably what happens. And
agreed.
Again, all seriousness into it, like, if Spector's healthy, he probably starts. But at the end of the day, Andreessen got an opportunity and he played well. Like, he played well consistently against the Steelers starters, and he made some plays. The tape will show more, but I think within
Wally
the larger...
Pipp probably wish he went that day too.
Oh man, you just don't want to get Wally Pipp. That's so nice callback. Well done. Well done. I think this spot too, for him to have this game in the wake of the Milano injury, just like could not have been like more like well timed for him. And also being a Buffalo guy, like, Bills fans are upset and worried about Milano and worried about who's going to start for him and so on and so forth. And then Andreessen just comes in and has like a really good game. Oh, Greg, we got to stop because we got a super chat. Thank you very much for being here. I don't know how to say that name, and I'm not going to try, but I was Cole Sopas local. Yeah, maybe close.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the super chat. And the question was kind of a serious question, Greg. Would a wild card first round exit be considered a success for this team? Yeah,
I don't know that it's a disaster. I don't know that it's immediately heads have to roll. But it's not a success. No, I think first round exit, you got to remember, first round exit would be our worst season in 5 seasons. We've been better than a first round exit for 4 straight seasons. We've won a playoff game every year for the past 4 years, division championship for the every year for the past 4 years. A first round exit is not a success. Again, I think there's a spectrum of failure, depending on how you would want to define that, but it certainly would not be a success.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, especially compared to what they've been, which has been a perennial like Final Four team in the AFC East. And I think a lot of it too, though, if we ask this question in like week 9, when if they're 4-5 or something, it might be like, you know what, this is a win because the wheels fell off.
Found a way to claw back into it. Yeah.
Exactly. Everything didn't work out and everybody got hurt. So I think it's a little relative to the season, but I'm with you. Yeah, I think especially with what the expectation is for this team, this franchise, even though this year is a bit of a revamp, I think the expectation is kind of like divisional round minimum and then kind of going forward and seeing where they can be. But, you know, Greg, we've talked about Andreessen a bit. We can continue to talk about him if you'd like, but, you know, it was Andreessen the only real standout for you? Any Dorian Williams action for you? Anything with this linebacking core of note? Again, especially considering this team is going to have to try and find a way to mitigate the loss of a legitimate all-pro in Matt Milano for the second straight season.
So I'll say I did note 2 other nice plays from Dorian Williams, but all the things that we just gave as kind of caveats of why to maybe not get too overexcited about Andreessen were also present for Dorian Williams in the entire time. Pittsburgh ran the ball a bunch again against him too. Pittsburgh didn't have an amazing passing game against him either. So why didn't we see him flash every other play? Why didn't we see him? You know, he's like the firing your gun, going downhill, diagnosing run plays. That's supposed to be where he's good. That's supposed to be like what he's got in the bag. So I will say there probably should have been a little more from him, but I don't think it was a bad game. I saw 2 nice plays. I noted the 2 of them. And again, until we see more and can go back and see what else was there, it's really hard to say. They played Andreessen quite a bit. He played deep into the 3rd quarter. So we saw some Deion Jones, some Edefuan Ufocio, you know, getting in there later. They continued to be solid, but there wasn't a ton else in there. So at linebacker, besides Andreessen, there wasn't a ton that stood out for me, but it's hard until we go back and look at some of the different pieces that are in there. But, again, with as much running they were doing and how they were coming at him, the fact that similar playing time, Dorian Williams had 1 tackle and Joe Andreessen had 12. Like this, it's really hard to just dismiss that like that. Again, I'm not going to try to say that Dorian Williams had a bad game, but like he had a great opportunity here for us to be raving about him tonight. People were probably coming into the game hoping to be raving about him tonight. I don't think he had a bad game, but I don't have a ton to rave about.
That's fair. And, especially when you're looking at it from a sample size standpoint and a snap share standpoint, like if anyone was going to ball out tonight, it was really going to be Andreessen or Williams, considering the snap share and the opportunities that they got. And just Andreessen, again, consistently flashing. I thought Williams had some as well. Like you mentioned, I thought he had a couple nice, reps where he shot the gap or made a nice play, a nice physical tackle. He had one where it looked like I think it was Warren. He was going to bury Warren, but Warren just got out of it and got forward for a couple more yards. So I thought Williams still had like a fine game for himself. It just kind of got outshined from a statistical perspective and from a flash standpoint with Andreessen. The one that really, not to continue harping on, but the one for Andreessen that really got me was, I think it was like a little screen pass or a run to Jalen Warren. I can't remember. And he just played over the top. Lineman tried to get him. He stayed free, and he just brought Jalen Warren down in space, like got over him. Warren tried to stiff arm him, but he basically just engulfed him and brought him down. And if people don't know, like Jalen Warren is like one of the best kept secrets in football. He's a really good pass protecting running back, but he's just good with the ball in his hands as a runner, as a pass catcher. He's got real juice. He's got some power because he's short and stocky. That's not an easy thing to do, to like bring him down in space, let alone to play off the block and take the proper angle. So just seeing him play the way he did tonight, again, was just extremely encouraging, especially in the wake of, what happened with Milano. Not saying like because he's going to replace Milano and everything's going to be fine, but it was just nice to see. It felt like a warm blanket getting some good linebacker play tonight, like in the wake of losing arguably the best player on the Bills defense. With this position, again, still in a kind of state of flux, do you think it's anyone's position to lose at this point? Like when Milano went out, in your mind, are you sitting there going, you know what, it's Dorian's job to lose? Like Dorian's the guy, or is it more like you're hoping Dorian would step up or someone else? Like where do you stand right now on what you think will happen or what you would like to see happen in terms of kind of mitigating that Milano loss?
So I described it as plan A is Dorian Williams is a 1-for-1 replacement, not at Milano's level, but at Milano's role with the 100% snap share 2 linebacker base nickel defense. That's got to be plan A. Your plan A is day 2 pick. That's a significant investment. 3rd round guy, 2nd year. Again, it's unfair. You had a really nice tweet explaining why it's unfair to hold the same 2nd year burst on the scene development that we saw from Terrell Bernard and just expect that from Dorian Williams because they're different players. You explain the different systems they came from is really well said. So I had lesser expectations, but the plan A was still Dorian Williams steps in, plays 100% of the snaps, and is that guy. Plan B is, and maybe there's even a plan B/C, because plan B is the Terrell Dotson platoon, where you have a first, second down guy, you go 3 safeties on 3rd down or obvious passing downs, and you bring in a box safety. Last year it was Jordan Poyer playing dime linebacker. It could be Taylor Rapp, and you bring in Cole Bishop in the back end or Mike Edwards in the back end. We'll see. Maybe it's Damar Hamlin playing dime linebacker. We'll see. So plan B is a platoon, but I say B/C because I explained it. They're like, well, if Dorian Williams isn't the answer as a 100% snap guy, it probably means he might not be the answer at the front end of the platoon either. So it might actually be. And in that moment on Thursday night, Joe Marino and I were talking about it, was maybe it's Deion Jones, and that Deion Jones is the first and second down guy. And then he comes out for the 3rd safety look as it goes forward. So some of those are, Ulufosio is a guy who was drafted in the 5th round more so because of health than for skill set and athleticism. He's a good player. He just can't stay on the field. And he's already injured again and can't. Finally just came back the last couple of days.
Fair.
And then you look at some of the other pieces for Balen Spector can't stay on the field. So he probably would have had a chance here too. And I talked about Nicholas Morrow and Deion Jones are both guys that I wanted really badly at one point, but they're not that guy anymore. And that's about the same as the free agents available, like a Zach Cunningham or other pieces. So I listed off like 9 names, and at no point did I say the name Joe Andreessen. Neither did Joe. At no point did either of us say that. So we were I say that not in to say that, oh, Joe Andreessen's now the starter next to Terrell Bernard, because he's certainly not. He's not going to be. I don't think that's going to be the case. Crazier things have happened, but I don't think that's going to be the case. However, I was grasping at straws. I was trying to find an answer and had an awful lot of options of what could be that answer. So, it should be Dorian Williams because he was the most significant investment. But he hasn't shown us anything in particular that tells us like, no, it's definitely this guy. He's definitely the guy. So I think we have to be open to all options right now. They started him tonight and he played great in a start. Can you think of things that Sean McDermott would like more than a story like that?
Right.
Like a wrestler from Lancaster
Right.
coming in out of nowhere, rags to riches, like literally a Rudy story, and he gets to bang that drum,
right?
That's just running through his veins right now.
He also has a good like linebacker aesthetic, like the way his pads fit and like the gloves and the wrists. Like he just looks like I don't know. I feel like he looks.
I don't even know if I love 44 as a linebacker number, and he makes it work.
He does make it work. I don't love it, but he does make it work.
If he makes it work,
yeah, he does. I'm cool with it being like, I was fine with Metakevich rocking it as like a special teamer. Like, I'm like, that's a cool special team number 44. But like as a starter, I'm like, numbers in the 40 are super hit or miss unless you're 42 and you're Ronnie Lott. And I won't say anything bad about Ronnie Lott because
he'll find you.
Yeah, he will. He cut off part of his own finger. Imagine what he'll do to you. So yeah, it was nice for Andreessen. My hope, and it hasn't really been able to come to fruition because he hasn't been able to like
that said to look for Joe Andreessen.
Well done.
I had an alarm set to check behind the door for Joe Andreessen.
Look out, he's there. He's everywhere. Shooting gaps in your house.
The gap might be behind my door. I don't know.
Joe, the gap shooter, Andreessen. Just way shooting gaps. You just gotta watch out. My like coming into camp and this like off season, I wanted to see where Williams was going to be from a trajectory standpoint. But my thought was like, okay, if they need a third linebacker, like it's going to be Morrow. And I know that's not the sexiest pick, but known quantity, plenty of real snaps with Philly, like all those snaps on a playoff caliber team. Granted, Philly did fall apart last year and, he was part of a grouping that was not good for them with their linebacking core. But my thought was, okay, like Morrow's going to be that third linebacker. And I'm still kind of like, you could pitch me on almost anyone starting next to Bernard. And I'd be like, okay. Because to your point, like in an ideal world, it is Dorian Williams, right? Like the cost, the contract, the term, the value, the pick you use, like in a perfect world, it is him. And could it be him? Sure. Could it also be any one of other like 2 or 3 other dudes? Like you could convince me of that. Like I don't think this is like locked down or locked in for Dorian Williams. And from any expectation standpoint, again, I want to see what the tape looked like for him in this game. But, Eric and I broke it down last week. Like he's still just raw in coverage and he's making better plays against the run. He has improved last year 100%, which is good to see, but I still just don't know where he is from a processing standpoint. And because of that, that's why it wouldn't surprise me if like, okay, no, Morrow's ahead of him or even though Deion Jones is the shell of Deion Jones, if you wanted to tell me, no, I think it should be Deion Jones, I'd be like, okay, I can kind of understand that case.
Or if we hear that the Bills have reached agreement with Zach Cunningham, we'd be like, oh, all right, I guess. I mean,
yeah, I guess they're going to play him on early downs and then
correct. Like, I guess that would tell me like, oh, I guess they're going to do the platoon thing.
Correct. Yeah.
And because we did last year, God love Terrell Dotson. Like he proved plenty of people wrong last year because they protected him in the scheme and they only put him in positions where he was set up to succeed. We could do that with a lot of these other guys. And I'm not going to lie, we could probably do that with Joe Andreessen.
Fair.
Like, like if we're grasping it, like, hey, we got to put a guy in a spot to succeed and then protect him on passing downs. That like those plays tonight are the immediate instinctive just constantly be around the ball.
Mm,
That's what Dorian Williams was supposed to do tonight. Like, that's what he
yeah.
was supposed to do. Like,
And
this was set up perfect for him. And
yeah. And just kind of my thoughts coming into this game were, again, I thought the starters were going to play before that torrential downpour,
yes,
but I was like, okay, it'll be Bernard and Dorian. And then I told you offline, like when I started watching the game, and I was like, okay, cool, like Dorian and Andreessen. And I was like, oh, Dorian and Andreessen, because I saw the 4 at first, and I just assumed it was 54.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, Spectre lost like 15 pounds and shrank like 2 inches. And then I was like, oh no, it's 44. And I just wonder how much, like that little wrench, like maybe they're still thinking like, oh, cool, good job, Andreessen, but Spectre's still ahead of you, or maybe he's down the pecking order. But yeah, it is
for
just
sure. Dean Jones.
Yeah, like
I mean, Dean Jones was just like an all-pro linebacker at one point.
Yeah,
I've said that. We're way past that, but
if you would have told me like 2017 to like 2021 Deion Jones was available, sign me up. Like he was just everywhere, like the speed and all jokes aside, like the trigger and the like shooting gaps and what he was from an athleticism standpoint. Yeah, so I think this linebacker, again, it's just on the week Milano goes down and then Specter's unavailable and a guy steps up and just has himself a really good game and all the local stuff and the wrestling and the backstory and everything, and also playing alongside a guy who's also trying to lay claim to that spot. It just creates a lot of drama and storyline about the spot. Like I was not expecting like, okay, Greg and I are going to do this, post-game show. I was not expecting the first half hour to be about linebacker because we're talking about Joe Andreessen. Like I just wasn't, it just wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Real quick,
at all.
shout out MV 1986
Nice.
here. Her listening to us live and posted the Josh Roth jersey. My man, that's fantastic.
Man, you know what? That 44 looks real good on the 90s Bills uniforms. That's a good looking one. Yeah, the font, the cleanliness. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the 90. I want those 90 uniforms back someday. As like an alternate, a one-game alternate. Someday. I don't understand why it's not. Everyone's doing it. This is one of those things where like
I could see some dumb marketing executive saying that we need to save that for when the new stadium opens and whatever. Like I could see someone convincing themselves of that. I have no idea why. I have no idea why, but I could see some of that. All right, we should probably talk about at least some of the other 89 people on the roster.
Yeah. The uniform things are one for me where like do what everybody else is doing. Like they're all doing cool uniforms and going back. The Bucks,
when
the
you
Eagles,
see everybody else going nuts and celebrating and being super happy about it, you can make money doing that too.
Do whatever, just cave to the peer pressure. Be like everyone else. Don't be an individual. You don't need to be. All right, let's go. Yeah, to your point, let's go through the normal order and kind of pecking order conversation pieces. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback, no Josh Allen tonight, which was a disappointment for people. And for Allen a little bit himself. He said on the sideline that he understood it, but he was going to make fun of McDermott for the next week and a half and say it was like a soft move. So no Allen
also,
tonight.
By the way, 100% the right smart move.
Yeah,
do you have any idea we would have been burning McDermott in effigy, literal pitchforks and torches at his door if he put him out there on an already like known to be questionable seamed turf field with a downpour storm beforehand. Like that's 100% the right decision. It's not fun. It's not a fun decision, but it's 100% the right decision.
Yeah, you can protect the franchise. Like I'm completely fine with that. No,
I'm impressed that he added Bernard and a handful of other people to it, like multiple guys who were supposed to play. And he's like, nope, screw it. We're not messing around. You guys go sit.
Yeah,
respect.
I like that. I respect that. Yeah, that's a very fair call. So we get no Josh Allen. We get Mitch Trubisky, who we may have seen more of, but he kind of got dinged up, and so he gives way to DiNucci. Yeah, not great. Trubisky started off with a couple nice throws. I was like, okay. And then just does Mitch Trubisky things like some not pulling the trigger on, I think it was on the second series where Herbig,
they run a two-man he padded the ball 3 times.
It's 3rd and 2, and the two-man game works great. Edwards gets caught inside and Herbig comes clean, but he had multiple options to his right. I'm like, just hit one of them. Like, and you're looking right at Cook. He doesn't pull the trigger on that. He has the ugly interception.
I think Hollins is he's not, we get spoiled with Josh. So like hitting the out at the sideline from the far hash is not an easy throw, and we take it for granted because Josh does it all the time. But put it over Holland's head, put it up above where it's either a toe tap, great grab, or an incomplete. Don't eat it.
And especially with like the Like Herbig comes through the gap where Cook released. So throw it to Cook. Like and again, I want to see it on the all 22 to make sure I'm not crazy, but I feel like he was looking right at him. But
It felt
nonetheless, we
like
get
it.
kind of a par for the course Mitch Trubisky performance where it's not really great and kind of underwhelming, or well, I guess depending on how you view him, it might just be par for the course altogether and not
Just
underwhelming.
whelming. Maybe
Yeah,
you were
just
just
whelmed. Yeah,
whelmed.
you were
Like that's
whelmed
what
by
you
Mitch
expected.
Trubisky, and he gives way to Danucci, who, as they stated in the broadcast, doesn't really know a ton of the playbook. And the Bills basically just run the football left and right. It's just
Yeah.
duo and some outside zone and mid zone, and then duo, and they're just running the ball left and right, which will make a fun conversation for the running backs. But
And
from a
the O-line even.
yes, and the O line even, but not really too much to write home about for the quarterbacks. I think the biggest thing for me with the quarterbacks is when you're in this situation, especially when we're trying to evaluate the wide receiver grouping and the pass catchers, it's just so hard to do that when you got guys who aren't pulling the trigger properly. Or in the case of Danucci, you're just running the ball every single play.
Yeah, and I've been this year I didn't because we had already given guaranteed money to Mitch Trubisky. I've been on the boat of, hey, just lock in the cost certainty
Mhm.
of a day 3
Yep.
rookie
Same.
quarterback, because
Yep.
then we don't have to worry about the money, because right now, for people who are asking, and lots of people are asking, um Mitch Trubisky's contract's guaranteed. Like, we can cut him, and it's not so much money that, oh, we couldn't possibly do that, but it's not nothing. I think it's like 2.7 million. Um, so we can kick some of that into next year, eat it, and move on from him. But there's zero savings, so we would have to pay him and his replacement, which it certainly doesn't look like Ben DiNucci is a replacement. Some people want us to
Mhm.
call Ryan Tannehill or whatever. Um, I'm comfortable that, hey, we're not going to have a Jacoby Brissett or a Gardner Minshew, because you don't pay for that when you have a franchise quarterback. Like, it's just, that's a starter that you're not having. Those guys are making, like,
Mm.
Brissett's making $10 million from there. That's a
Yeah.
starter.
Yeah.
That's not having Connor McGovern. That's not having, I don't even know who else that's not bringing back Daquan Jones. You're
Yeah.
picking that insurance instead of Daquan Jones. I don't care that much. I don't care about that. I don't want him instead of Rasul Douglas. Like,
Mm.
you're removing a veteran starter instead of having a backup quarterback. So I get that. But you could hit on Cooper Rush. You could hit on, hell, Mike White. You could hit
Mm.
on Brock Purdy, obviously at the high end, but like, you
Mm.
could hit on one of these guys who ends up being like, oh, well, that's kind of fun. Like, that is where Kirk Cousins, that's where Jimmy Garoppolo came from, where, hey,
Mm.
you stumbled upon a trade asset. So at some point, by some point, I mean next freaking April, we have reached that point of where, hey, we need that, because if we're not gonna have Jacoby Brissett or Tyrod Taylor or one of those higher end, well, Jameis Winston, a more well paid backup, and that means we're not going to have it. We certainly shouldn't be paying extra money for Mitch
Fair.
Trubisky, because he
Yeah.
is not worth extra money. He is not worth more than the minimum contract money, and we're paying him more than the minimum contract money. We're paying more than guys who are going to, more than Dwayne Smoot. Dwayne Smoot's going to be more important to this team than Mitch Trubisky, and we're paying Mitch Trubisky more money.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we have a choice. I don't think we're going to have someone good. And if we drafted the day 3 rookie, it would also be a disaster if Josh Allen missed any
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
guy had to play. So this isn't to say that it's better. It's just that I'm annoyed we're paying extra money to also not really have any more insurance than we would with just some Joe Milton or whoever that
Yeah.
also wouldn't be ready to lead this team.
I think that's fair. And I'm in that boat as well, I just don't want to do the offseason dance every year of like, what quarterback are we signing to a 1-year deal to figure out who's going to play behind Josh Allen? Like, just give me a day
Give me
3
4 years.
quarterback. Yep. 4 years, cost effective. You know what you're getting year in and year out. Also, somebody who could potentially develop
Year
and learn
3,
under
year
Allen.
4, maybe you give yourself a little something where you have a trade chip.
Yeah, cool. And if not, like maybe if Allen gets banged up in year 3 or year 4 for that guy, it's a guy who's been with the team for 3 or
Yes.
4 years already, and kind of you have some kind of continuity there. But yeah, either way, it's going to be disaster if Allen goes down. But yeah, another just underwhelming day
So
from the
asking
quarterbacks.
you, when you see guys like this, we're going to be able to talk about the running backs and the offensive line just fine. I struggle to talk about the receivers because
Same.
Mitch did so little, and then it got to the point where we were just kind of not milking the clock, but running it down their throat.
Yes.
And protecting Danucci. He's been with the team for
Fair,
days.
yeah.
But even
That's
early
also a
on,
good point. Like, you don't want to just that's not even throwing a dude into the fire. That's like setting
no,
him up for failure, like to really trot him out and chuck the ball around when he's not familiar with what's going on there.
So obviously in the passing game, like the receivers and tight ends, Coleman made the one play early, and then it was out a little bit in front of him, and
He
it
should have
is an
caught that.
August
He should have
preseason
caught that in
game.
the low red zone. That's a touchdown. You got to catch that.
I think it was a little bit of alligator arms.
Yeah.
That safety was coming quick. If
I think he tried to
arms that
snatch it and put it away, and he tried to
Yes.
do it so fast that he bricked it.
Yeah, so if he does that in a regular season game, I'll be mad. I'll give him a pass in a preseason game here, but if he does that in a regular season game, I'll be mad.
Fair. Yeah. No, I second that. I saw the play, and the first thing that pre-snap, I was like, man, this would be a really good spot to go to Keon just based on the coverage. And the play action works, and he times it well. He stabs with his outside foot, and he comes right inside, and he's got space. And he
created enough of a window of what he needed. Like he did his job. He just didn't follow through on the right. He didn't finish the route. And again, like you said, I don't know the alligator arm is full because he didn't full come back, but you could tell he tried to snatch it and pull his arms back. And,
I think he either saw the flash or heard footsteps, and he knows again from the pre-snap positioning like where the safety is going to be. I think he 100% tried to get it and either protect the ball or protect himself, but he just didn't snatch it from the air, which again, he has good hands. Like, it's frustrating to kind of see that in that moment when he's been making all these plays. And again, we'll do running backs after. Let's talk about the wide receiver position since we're here. Wanted to throw, there's several people in the chat who are just angry and cussing out the Bills left and right. I got yelled at by Michael for ignoring his super chat, which I didn't. I pulled it up earlier.
It wasn't Anthony's fault. I was rambling at the time.
No, I did pull it up, but also it's a wide receiver point. So I figure, hey,
we were going to get to this.
Absolutely. Also cool AI photo. But yeah, Michael says, did you guys see our first round pick catching touchdowns for the Chiefs today while we watch Coleman lumber around? So this is in reference to Xavier Worthy. I had to look this up because I was out at a family party all day. I saw no football. Xavier Worthy caught a touchdown pass today for the Chiefs while Keon Coleman is lumbering around. So Michael is not pleased, as are a couple other people in the chat who think Keon Coleman is a bust or is highly overrated. So that's a fun conversation.
I saw their first round pick get thrown around in the joint practice as like a rag doll.
Who put him on the ground like it was McDuffie?
No, I thought that was joint practice.
When Worthy got chucked?
I thought so.
No, it was Chiefs on Chiefs.
Oh, it was two Chiefs guys? Oh, that's even better.
I think it was McDuffie or I don't want to say like Brian Cook. It was somebody, because he was in the slot. It was either a big nickel or it was McDuffie, who just put him down to the ground, I thought.
Yeah. Two guys. The first guy was knocking him down, the other one just crushed him.
Because the second guy
for the plays where Worthy can stay on his feet, he's going to look great. Yeah,
fair. He got chucked. The second guy who crushed him was Tranquil. Accidentally just going into coverage. It was like, whoops, and ran into him. But while we're on that conversation, Keon Coleman, I think what's frustrating me with Coleman. Oh, nice comment there from Jim Jack about Worthy. My frustration with Coleman, granted, he should have caught that ball tonight. My frustration with the wide receiver position isn't even so much with Coleman himself or wide receivers in general. It's just that the quarterback play these first two games has just been really hard to get any semblance of evaluation for the guys at the position, which is frustrating because there are so many changes in the wide receiver room this year from a body type standpoint and skill set and fit and all of these pieces. And you're not really getting any semblance of evaluation because of what's going on at the quarterback spot. And, you alluded to it a minute ago with talking about the QBs. That's my biggest takeaway. So I really have to go and okay, got to watch the all 22 to see the route concepts and
where guys creating separation and not getting
because we're not getting any. Oh, well, so-and-so must be doing good because he's getting the ball left and right and things are working, because the quarterback play isn't there to support the wide receiver play, and it's muddying this whole wide receiver conversation, which that's my biggest takeaway for the wide receivers tonight, along with a couple other little details.
I can tell you Mac Hollins is wide open on one of them.
Mac Hollins had a decent night tonight, being able to continuously find space, but yeah, fair point.
Out of anything else with the wide receivers, there's not a ton to take away from here. I saw KJ Hamler have a really nice dig out block on a Ray Davis play where he had to come back and like, so it was a zone run to the right and he was the outside receiver off to the left and he came in like where it would normally be, like if it was going the other way, it would be like him coming back on a crackback, but like he like scooped underneath and got the defensive end, which is noticeable when it's KJ Hamler because he's so little. So that's like why my eyes caught it as he did, and I was like, "Oh, good job, nice job, KJ." All right,
Shavers had one tonight too, where he buried somebody on the edge of the line. I think they ran duo, and he put dude on the ground. Like he lit him up. He like hit stuck him. Like you flick the right analog stick up and put him down.
So those literally like those are the only little flashes that stuck out to me, and then obviously there is some strategic impact of how serious is what happened to Marcus Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah, that sucked.
Because that looks scary. He did not look happy. Neck and back things can be very, like the timelines can be very weird. I know a lot of people like this. I'm separating this. I'm assuming he was a roster lock per se as that wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. He's behind Hollins for sure, but that wide receiver 5 spot. So that is an impact. So if he's now injured to the point where it's at least early season IR pup list kind of thing, that now creates an opening that we weren't sure that, I mean, honestly, that's probably a direct line to Terrell Shavers, from that fair standpoint. Or I guess KJ Hamler has been doing something, but I think Daquan Hardy probably seemed like he got an awful big step forward from a return standpoint. We'll get to that here in a bit.
Even the one where I was like, why are you running back towards the goal line? And then he pulled it out and turned the corner. And I was like, okay, never mind.
I can tell you Sean McDermott's not going to care about the result of that play.
No, yeah,
he's
hates
gonna,
the process. They hate the process.
The fact that he went back into and he's going to hate that with a burning passion. So yes, he did get himself back out to like the 8-yard line or so and like not make it a complete disaster, but he's going to hate that real bad. Anyways, so Marcus Valdes-Scantling, that is a roster impacting element we need to learn about what happened. How serious is that? How bad is that? Is that something that's going to impact his availability early on? Because that is something that could certainly open up an avenue of, hey, let's connect it to other things here. I know one of the guys just said Davidson, who I don't think is going to be wide receiver 5.
Oh yeah, Zach Davidson is wide receiver 5.
But does MVS let's just go into the assumption he starts the season on the IR, and that this is something serious enough that he could miss the beginning of the season. Does that lead to a 6th linebacker named Joe Andreessen? Does that lead to a 4th tight end named Zach Davidson? That doesn't have to be a receiver. They could keep 5 now and just have the 4 main guys, maybe Hamler or Shaver as a 5th, and don't keep 6. And now that's 1 extra linebacker, 1 extra tight end. Or an extra, Will Clapp looked pretty good tonight. We'll get to that here in a second. Does that give you another opening? I don't think it'll be a 4th running back like Frank Gore, who we'll talk about in a second. But that could be, maybe I was already in the boat of like, hey, we might only keep 5 wide receivers. If MVS starts on IR, I would strongly wager that we only keep 5 wide receivers.
That's fair. Or just put Andreessen at wide receiver. He probably can just do.
He's all things to all people.
Whatever.
His name.
I wanted to pull up this comment real quick. Who I think this guy left already because we're too fanish. I love when people just yell into the void because they're angry. And so this guy's been yelling at us the whole time. And he says this comment and says Coleman had an easy toss and he dropped it. Quit making excuses. We literally said he should have caught the ball. And we said he did a bad thing by not catching it. What are you doing? What are we spinning? What are we spinning? We said, here's why he may have dropped it. We're not excusing it. We didn't say it's fine that he dropped it. We said he should have caught the ball.
In a regular season,
we said he should have caught the ball. I don't understand. I don't understand. It's
cut him. He's a bust.
He's terrible. He can't. And you know what? And I say this as a person who I really love Xavier Worthy, and I wanted the Bills to take Xavier Worthy, and
Yeah,
I still would be happy if
he's
the Bills
super
took
fast.
Xavier Worthy, even though he's
Fast
small.
people are
And
fun.
I like speed is fun, right? If you're not first, you're last. Ricky Bobby and all that kind of stuff. Lightning McQueen, he didn't say that, but he could have. Yeah, I'm very interested to see where where this wide receiver position goes now. If next stuff is always temperamental, right? Like you don't know. MVS could be back practicing tomorrow and everything is good, or he could have like a bruised spinal cord and he's out for God knows how long. Like you just never know. And yeah, how does that muddy the situation? Because you've got Shakir and you've got Coleman. I'm not in order, but you've got Shakir, you've got Coleman, you've got Curtis Samuel, and you've got Matt Collins.
Yeah. Top four are
yes,
like not only locked in, but like playing time snaps targets.
Yes.
Like light years away from everybody else.
Absolutely.
No matter who is 5 or if there's a 6.
Absolutely. And so, and I think a lot of people were like, okay, you see the money that MVS got, and knowing, even though he's not amazing, who he is and where he's been, it's like, okay, MVS is wide receiver 5. Do they keep 6? Who's the 6th? Yada, yada, so on and so forth. But if MVS is hurt for any period of time, and this is what's frustrating about how the first 2 preseasons have gone, because we don't really, it could be anyone just because we haven't seen a sample size of somebody who's played well in the preseason when the bullets have been live. Like Kamler's had some, or Kamler, I guess I come by KJ Hamler and make Kamler. Hamler's had some flashes. Shavers has had a moment or two and also like a pretty good training camp, but you could make the case for almost anyone. And then to your point, then it's like, you're not going to keep 6, like, because then you're keeping a guy that probably you're not keeping if MVS is good. That's really your wide receiver 7 do you want to keep them as wide receiver 6? And it muddies up that spot.
Even any of those guys, I don't think any of them have been as good at corner as Jamarcus Ingram has been, as good at linebacker 6 as Joe Andreessen has been,
fair.
as good at running back 4 as Frank Gore has been, as good at tight end 4 as Zach Davidson has been, as good at, D-line 10 that Kingsley Jonathan or Deshaun Williams has been. Like, there isn't anybody there that's doing such a outstanding job that we can't roll the dice that we can get it back on practice squad. Because if I told you that it's week 4 and on our practice squad we have Andy Isabella, KJ Hamler, and Marcus Valdes-Scantling, and we lost Terrell Shavers, are you going to be like, oh man, I can't believe we lost Terrell Shavers? Like, I mean, yeah, like, what does it matter? Or that, hey, we have Terrell Shavers, Andy Isabella, and KJ Hamler on practice squad. We lost Marcus Valdes-Scantling, or we lost Andy Isabella, or we lost KJ Hamler. Like, we're not going to have all of them on practice squad. Like, somebody's not going to make it.
Yeah.
What do we care which one? Like, none of these guys are. Didn't we learn with Isaiah Hodgins? It's like, didn't we learn? Like, it's not. You're not just a hidden superstar all the time. Like,
how dare you? How dare you? How dare you speak of Hodgins that way? You know what? Even to that point, if MVS is banged up, I'd rather, instead of keeping 6 wide receivers, I'd rather keep 4 tight ends and have Zach Davidson be kept as like the 4th tight end over like another receiver. Like, it's just, the value just is not there. But again, it's just frustrating because even if they keep 6 because MVS is good, or if MVS is banged up and they got to figure out who's going to be 5, it's just annoying that it could be anyone. And we don't have real game evaluation at this point, other than just like trying to watch and see who's running good routes and separating, because we're getting that disconnect between quarterback play and wide receiver. And it's muddying the whole evaluation process from a roster.
I thought a nice throw on that corner route, Quentin Morris could have had a touchdown.
Yeah.
There's a couple different spots where I think some of the tight ends could have fly. Obviously, we did see Zach Davidson on the one
really nice route,
scramble drill leak. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was talking about the one that he took down the sideline. But yeah, creating separation. There'll be more to be seen once you can see the all 22 of how open was he versus how often he got the ball.
Yeah, that's fair. So kind of seeing how that. Anything else on wide receivers for you?
No, we just wait on the news for MVS.
Yeah, which sucks. Anything on tight ends? No Dalton Kincaid. We saw a little bit of Dawson Knox, and then Morris got banged up a little bit, but we got to see some Zach Davidson. I saw a couple really nice blocks from Zach Davidson, which got me excited.
Because that is a factor for him. Like his athleticism, his movement skills, his after the catch skills are what get people excited. But in order to make this roster, you got to play special teams and make tackles, because last year our number 1 and number 2 snap counts on special teams were Reggie Gilliam and Quentin Morris. Like you got to play if you're going to make that team there. So if Davison wants to make it, you got to run down and tackle people.
Absolutely.
And you got to block. You got to be ready to block. So it's cool that he can do the other things, but we have Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. So like I'm cool if he can be a backup to them, but you want to play, you've got to do the other dirty work.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I noticed a couple, one on zone run, one on duo. The zone run, he was backside. Duo run, he was front side because it's duo. But yeah, a couple nice blocks, which is cool. I'm excited to go back and see him on the all 22 for that. But again, I feel like that's really where I'm trying to glean value, was how the tight ends blocked in the run game. Because again, from a pass catching standpoint, it's very much a similar conversation to the wide receiver conversation because of the quarterback play and just how the game went.
So speaking of, let's talk about some run game.
Oh, run game was good.
Nice.
Oh boy, and you got to start with Ray Davis. I think he was the most successful on the night, but really, like, if you wanted to start with Gore, or even if you wanted to start with Darrington Evans, who had a couple nice runs tonight, the run game really got it working. It was nice too to see it with DiNucci, who I think at a certain point, everybody realized it was just going to be running the football. And between the O-line and the running backs, like, they were able to just continue to get push and create displacement and make things work. But yeah, I think Gore stood out, Evans stood out, and Ray Davis as well. Like the juice, the burst, the vision, the feet, a couple really nice runs for him, some good like chunk yardage between 10 and 15 yards, falling forward, breaking tackles a little bit. It was really nice to see the running backs again in a game where you need to see that, considering your pass game is pretty lifeless.
Every single guy 4+ yards per carry. 4 of the 5 guys 5+ yards per carry. Ray Davis 8 for 58, so 7.3 yards per carry. Frank Gore Jr. 8 for 41, so 5.1 yards per carry. Darrington Evans 7 for 37, 5.3. James Cook 6 for 25 at 4.2, and Ty Johnson with a 6-yard run. So all told, those guys, not including the kneel downs at the end, it was 30 carries for 167 yards. So those 30 carries by the running backs, you're talking 5.6 yards a carry. Really, really good game, especially after a little lifeless. Again, I know it was the Bears' second preseason game. They certainly looked more ready and more communicative and organized, getting to that standpoint. So it was nice to see that bounce back tonight. Pittsburgh is a well-coached team with a talented front, with a lot of, like, they had a lot of their, the names that you're looking with Keanu Benton and, like, Landon Roberts and Nick Herbig and, Patrick Queen was out there playing tonight. Like they were playing their guys and we were running the ball right at them. So that was encouraging to see. Again, we'll go back and say the blocking is hard in the moment, other than like at the point of attack and things like that. But
blocking
nice
and secondary stuff is hard to see.
It's really hard to see who had a good game versus bad game in those senses. But I loved seeing, last week they were missing on combo blocks. Like, I get it, like, you get beat one-on-one, but we saw guys getting knocked backwards. We saw missing on not moving guys on double teams, not getting upfield to the second level on combo blocks. We were seeing all those things tonight. That was clean, looked good. And all you can ask, all those yards per carry, we didn't have any big, huge plays. Like there was a 14-yarder and a 19-yarder. There wasn't some big play buoying that and making it look good. It was 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards over and over and over again. That's a really encouraging game to be able to do it. Even if it was vanilla, they knew what was coming at them too, and they were still able to do it.
And then, like you said with the stats there, like, it was, you saw it across, even going with Cook. Like, Cook had some nice runs, and then Ray Davis had a really good night. Gore had some nice runs, including at one point, I think Sophia mentioned it in the comments, where it was just like 5 straight Frank Gore Jr. runs, and he was just picking up first downs. Evans had a couple really nice cuts. And again, it was just simple, like, they're running dart where they're pulling Spencer Brown or they're pulling Deion Dawkins. They're running duo, and then they're just running zone. Like, they're just running like their basic core concepts that are also, dart is it isn't vanilla, but it is to them because they run it all the friggin' time.
And it's also not showing their hand. No eye candy, no extra motion, not much of the fancy. All the cadet sets were excited about things like that. Like, pretty vanilla, pretty straightforward. Hey, what's coming, and we're going to be able to do it anyways. Even some of the stuff, like, they were running the ball on like 3rd and 3, 3rd and
Yes.
4, where it's like, hey, just prove it to me you can get it. And they did. They converted several times, but a couple times they ran for 2.5 on 3rd and 4. And I was like, oh, would you really run the ball in that situation? They wouldn't. Josh Allen back there, you're not running the ball on 3rd and 4. But it was still like some of that, there's some principle one-on-one film that goes with that they could say, hey, not advantageous situations, not schemed up, not perfect scenarios. Show me you can still win your matchup. That's good film analysis for the coaches and position coaches to go back and look at.
Absolutely. And, again, especially like you said, coming off the Chicago game where we really didn't see success on the ground until it was the third teamers with Darrington Evans and SVPG and then running their pin and pull stuff. But tonight we really saw it from the first team, the second team, the third team throughout the game, and 4 running backs having a good night. And again, it was nice. Like last week, Evans had some nice stuff on the ground, and Ray Davis had some nice plays, but a lot of them were in the pass game because the run game wasn't doing anything. Gore had a couple nice runs last week, but it was really more a couple nice catches because, again, the run game wasn't working. Tonight I really thought everyone showing good vision, good contact balance, kind of falling forward. And especially, too, I think actually Davis did this, Evans did this, and I think Gore did it as well when they're running duo and they're just washing down that front side and the running backs are bouncing it. And in that one-on-one situation with the corner, all 3 guys were able to put a move and turn the corner on the cornerback and chop down an arm, get up the sideline, like make moves, in addition to kind of winning inside as well. And so that's a testament to the running backs and their overall ability, but also kind of, attaching that to, I think, our next position group to talk about, like the offensive line, who, I had a just, again, from first team all the way through to the third and fourth, however you want to label it, just good push and displacement creation on the ground tonight. We saw them lean into their core concepts. Nothing crazy, nothing schemed up, like you said, but just, some dart, some pin and pull, zone and duo, a ton of zone and a ton of duo, some dart with the first team grouping, which again makes sense because that's, one of their bread and butter concepts come in season. But it was nice to just see the push and the movement consistently. Again, like you said, against a front that is able to work. And even if it is the Steelers' second or third team dudes, Pittsburgh guys, like when they put on the helmet and the jersey and you play for Mike Tomlin, like you understand the assignment, you know how you're supposed to play football. And they got theirs a couple times. There was some good penetration. There was some good juice from a pass rush perspective for some of the Steelers guys. But largely tonight, I thought the offensive line had a good performance with a couple guys who really stood out for themselves as well.
100%. I think we already rattled off the, yards per carry to me is normally an offensive line stat more than it is a running back stat. They were consistently giving them first contact down the field. That's what you ask for in a run game, is don't make the running back have to make a play at the line of scrimmage, give them space, make their first contact down the field. They were doing that. The one sack was 100% on Mitch Trubisky because he didn't get rid of the ball. Even the other one was there was a miscommunication that is going to get marked against the offensive line where they let Herbig come on that. But that was a nice stunt. That was well done. And even that one, Josh would have got rid of the ball. Like the ball would have been out on the one. So, and the last one for DiNucci was him just eating the ball, not to get yelled at, putting it at risk when we were trying to run the clock.
I even thought, he was just like, I'm just going to eat it and let the clock run. Right. I was actually kind of like, that's a smart play. Like, I'll take that. Like, don't throw it out of bounds. Yeah, good play.
A Ronald Curry in his ear before that play going out there saying, hey,
you better not stop the clock.
Do not stop. Even if we go here, eat it. Do not throw it away. Do not throw an incompletion and interception. Just keep the clock running. And they gave him a couple of those quick bubble screens, little quick outs and stuff like that, just to keep the defense just honest enough that it wasn't literally run the ball every play. So none of those, in my mind, were the O lineman got beat one-on-one straight up for a sack. Like there weren't, I didn't remember a single snap of that for a sack. There were a couple that we'll go back and look at.
Spencer Brown got beat inside on one, but they were also that play. They were also the Bills O line was doing some cool, and but it's kind of what they do. They did it last year as well, like some of the false pull stuff to kind of sell the run action. So like they were pulling Osiris Torrance on play action to make it look like power, but it's really just a play action pass, and then he's looping around to be the end man. And on the one where Spencer Brown got beat inside, I don't know if he was expecting McGovern to help him, but it's hard for McGovern to get over there because he's going from center all the way over to Spencer Brown at right tackle because Torrance had pulled and wasn't there next to him anymore. So that's one I do want to watch on tape. But yeah, I can't really remember too many where I was like, oh, so-and-so just got beat or so-and-so got blown up. And we saw that a lot last week from the first team all the way through the third.
Yeah, 100%. It's something I'm excited to be able to look at a little bit more, see what you and Eric come up with as well to be able to look at there. But a big step forward for one that, again, my response last week, I talked about this with Jothers, and it was, the offensive line was kind of a given for me. It's like, okay, I got other things to worry about, but at least
Yes.
we have the offensive line.
Correct.
And that opening against the Bears wasn't enough that I was like all of a sudden throwing that out of the window. But I was like, come on, guys.
Yeah, damn it.
I wasn't worried about this. Like, do I need to be worried about this? Like, I thought that was going to be a strength. So after tonight, I feel much, much better. That gets me back to, okay, this is what I expected. I feel good about it. I don't think we're going to see much in this third preseason game. I think we're seeing an awful lot of the guys not even dressed. But I feel good enough now that, okay, that's what I expected. That's what we should. We should have a power, above average, good run blocking offensive line, and an average to slightly below average pass blocking offensive line. And when you have an average pass blocking offensive line and Josh Allen, you're fine, because Josh Allen makes everything okay. So if we can have an above average good run blocking line and an average or below average pass blocking line with Josh Allen, I feel good. And now I'm back to, okay, we have an above average good run blocking line and an average to below average pass blocking line. We'll be fine.
Yeah, it was nice to see them get working in the run game again, and I'm excited to see next week. To your point, I feel like we're probably not going to get a lot of starters. I'm excited to see another week for Cedric Van Pran-Granger. I thought he had a couple nice blocks again tonight. There was one that really stuck out with me. One of the Frank Gore runs. It's a zone run, and the Steelers blitz their linebacker at the last minute, and Granger picks him up and hits him immediately as he's trying to shoot through the A gap, and then Gore cuts back, and then Gore gets through to the second level and cuts again and makes the safety wipe out as he came through. I marked it. I'm excited. That might be the first play that I clip for all 22, but it was a nice pickup from Granger and then a nice run from Gore. So yeah, really, really good job by the running backs tonight. And then in conjunction with the offensive line, stepping it up a little bit, flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball. Let's kind of group it all together. The edge play and defensive tackles. I know we're going to break it up, but in the interest of time, because we talked about Joe Andreessen for so much, let's group it all as one grouping. Aside from Greg Rousseau, who looked very good tonight from a pass rush standpoint, and it was very encouraging to see, unless you want to talk about him, which you're free to. What stuck out to you from the defensive line tonight? Was it a depth guy? Was it a starter? Was it something schematic? Anything on your mind when it came to the Bills defensive line coming out of this game?
So I mean, the easiest one is Gregory Rousseau. It is, and it was not just that, like, oh, it was good. It was that, like, those were like dominant reps.
Yes,
those were like embarrassing a first round pick reps. Embarrassing a first round pick with a first round pick running back chipping at the same time.
Yeah, fair.
And you still just big boyed both of them directly into a Russell Wilson sack. I think they officially credited him with 2.5 sacks in 1 quarter of play. I believe was the official.
Yeah, it was like four tackles, 2.5 sacks is what they flashed up when they interviewed him on the sideline.
And I don't know that he played much in the second quarter. So that was obviously awesome. You saw Ed Oliver in there disrupting. You saw that movement and just continually being able to reset the line of scrimmage back in their backfield. That's why they weren't able to get a ton going. Later on, they got a little bit of the run game going, but early on, they just could not get much of anything. And every time they got into a passing situation, it didn't matter if it was Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, they did not have time, or they did not have a clean pocket barely ever. Yeah. So it wasn't perfect every single time, but there was no picture perfect clean pockets at any point.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Like, if we're going to be the new safeties we're breaking in, the new linebacker we're going to have to break in, all of that's going to be made much, much easier if we have a disruptive front four consistently over and over and over again. In the same way, I want to be fair as I praise Gregory Rousseau and Ed Oliver because they look great. Similar to the Andreessen Dorian Williams comment, I'd love to see a flash or two from AJ Epinesa. I'd love to
And
see
yeah,
a
and
little something.
Marcus had a good comment here saying Epinesa had one of the quickest get-offs last season. I did not see that same burst in the rush today or last week. I remember seeing a metric last year at the beginning of the season. AJ Epinesa is like across the entire league is like top 5 for like
Yes.
quickest or fastest get
Yes.
off. He might even be like 1 or 2. Like he's up there, or he might even be in the top 3, like one of the best get offs. And I was thinking the same thing last week and this week. He doesn't look like he has that juice coming off the edge. He looks like he's playing in slow motion or like quicksand a little bit. And I don't know if he put on more weight or if he's banged up or if it's something else, but he just looks like he's drudging through and he doesn't look like he's playing fast or crisp. And I think that's contributing significantly to, your comment of kind of just being like, yeah, you want to see more from him, a couple flashes. And he had a couple versus the run against Chicago, versus some tight ends, but yeah, you're just not seeing it from a pass rush standpoint at all right now, which is disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly where, and again, similar to Dorian Williams, like I'm not disappointed. I don't think he had a terrible game. I'm not like worried or concerned. I would have also loved it. I've seen, we're high-fiving and joking about, oh my God, everybody's got a huge problem with Gregory Rousseau. He's going to be a disaster. And he might be. Like this might be, we might now have, and I said it, our top 4 in pass rush downs, it's going to be Gregory Rousseau and Von Miller, Ed Oliver, and Dwayne Smoot. Dwayne Smoot's going to be that 4th guy kicked in as a pass rushing 3 tech. And I think that's going to be like our get home lineup.
They're like NASCAR package or whatever type of thing.
That's going to be the ones. I still love Daquan Jones. I'm super happy that we have Austin Johnson. I'm really intrigued about Dwayne Carter. I'm happy about AJ Epinesa. I'll talk about another defensive end here in a second. But that's going to be our 4. That's going to be the key 4 of what we need to happen here. And Dwayne Smoot might play a fair amount of snaps strong side anytime Rousseau has to sit down. He's a guy who can set the edge. I also love that I'm seeing consistent flashes from Javon Solomon.
I was going to say, when you were like, who else I'm going to talk about? I was like, you mean Javon Solomon?
Yeah. I love that I continue to see flashes from him. I know you brought up some stuff previously where he wasn't, obviously going against lower level competition. It was easier for him to bend the edge, easier for him to turn the corner. I love seeing the counter inside move he had a couple times.
So that's the bad. Yeah.
I loved seeing that he was going upfield, knew that they were reading that off of him, and he had that, switch to power back inside, was able to cut back across the tackle's face and finish twice. I don't think he actually got a sack on either of them, but one was a 3rd down where he forced a terrible throwaway that he, that's turnover. That's
a win.
Say just as good as a sack because it's not lost yardage, but it's just as good as a sack. You caused the team to get the ball back. He had 2 of those that I counted where I saw a conscious second move. That's his second NFL game here. That's the second game against NFL competition. He's already making those adjustments. That was really encouraging. And I swear I notice him on special teams more than anybody else. Like every game.
I think the second punt, he was the one who made the play on the sideline, chased the dude down and kind of
defensive end.
Hog-tied him and just brought him right down. I was like, oh.
It's because you don't normally see a stocky number 56 on special teams. So it's noticeable. And I'm like, I keep noticing him on special teams. So it's just cool. Like that's how you, so Sophia here mentioned it. I read a calf. I don't love that.
They said during the Bills broadcast, they said that he was, they were doing like the pulsating massager to him on the sideline. So I'm hoping it was just kind of like a little tweak or something crampy, like nothing too crazy. Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, calf is I hate calves. The calf is my number one soft tissue concern because I don't know if you guys are aware, the calf is close to the Achilles. Anything close to the Achilles freaks me out. Don't love it. But I love that I keep noticing him. I love that I keep noticing him. I keep teasing people because oh man, I think he's a roster lock. Every 5th round pick in the NFL makes a roster. Literally none get released. None of them. The last 3 years, 100% have made rosters. There hasn't been a 5th round pick that's been released for 4 years. Their last year 2 made it via IR. The Bills and the Colts 5th round pick towards ACL, like a legit ACL. So even if you want to tell me that Justin Shorter would have gotten cut and he was a convenience IR, Okay, well then that's one in the last 3 years, and it's like 98.6% fifth round picks are roster locks. That's not a leap, that you're not staking a claim of, no, hey, Javon Solomon's my guy. Fifth round picks make rosters, period.
You're not reinventing the wheel here. Yeah, I second the notion on Solomon, and you hit a lot of it. I like the plays that he's making against the run and just reading the mesh point. But the big one for me is, that one play you talked about, and I talked about it last week on the show. Talked about it in the film room a bit, and I broke down a bunch of it when I did just like a Javon Solomon film room or film episode for Disguise Coverage like a month or so back. His go-to move, and he did it a bunch against Chicago last week, is he tries to bend that corner. He'll flash that inside hand to try and get the tackle to shoot his hands, and then he dips and bends underneath it, rips through, and then flattens to the quarterback. And he did that multiple times last week. He did it against Darnell Wright. He did it against the second string right tackle for the Bears. And each time, it just against NFL length and strength, he just wasn't able to flatten and turn that corner. They just threw him off a little bit, that when he tried to turn the corner fully, he just got thrown off kilter a little bit and wasn't able to just get right to the quarterback. And my big thing for him, because he is electric off the edge. He's got good juice. He's got bend. He's got good arm length for his overall size and frame. And he understands pass rush plan. He understands throwing a move here early to set it up for another move later. I wanted to see what he would do with kind of being hit with an obstacle a little bit of like, hey, my go-to move or my go-to style of turning the corner isn't working right now. What do I do to counter that? And you hit it on that one pressure tonight where he used that inside move. He did what he normally does. And I want to confirm it on tape, but I rewound it a bunch, so I'm pretty confident. He flashed that hand briefly, and he goes to turn the corner on the right tackle. And when the right tackle opens up and crosses that midline, he puts his foot in the ground, and Solomon takes his right hand, his inside hand, and he puts it right in his side, kind of like right into his armpit, and then chucks him upfield and comes back through inside through that inside shoulder that he pried open. And I was just like, oh, there it is. Like, because he doesn't need to be complete from the perspective of like, you got to win inside and you got to win outside. He just needs to win inside enough that it's in the mind of tackles so he can keep winning outside. And when he threw that move,
be cheesy? That's what you get when you get to practice every day with Von Miller.
Fair point.
Like, I don't want to just like immediately give Von all the credit for that, but like the little nuances like that, it's really nice when you have an all-time pass rush guy from a setup standpoint.
Who's so cerebral, who understands the position and knows how to win from the neck up. Yeah, like so that type of experience is invaluable to all these dudes. And it was really nice to see him throw that inside move. Like, and all he needs to do is win with that a couple times. So it's in the back of a tackle's mind to be like, I can't sell out for the outside rush. Like, I have to protect my inside a little bit. I have to stay balanced. I can't just overset. Like, and so that was really encouraging to see. And yeah, to your point, he keeps flashing. And once he flashed on special teams multiple times, I was like, okay, it's a wrap. Like, if there was any doubt for anyone, I don't think there is. He's making the roster. But yeah, he's looked good off the edge with legitimate juice, good special teams reps for him. So yeah, really nice for Javon Solomon. Anybody else on the defensive line for you?
Not anyone without going back to watch again that was significant, other than the fact that I like someone named Rondell Bothroyd is on the team. I learned that during the game because I saw the number and the back of the name, and like I even had to like pause it and go, wait, who's 97?
I did the same thing because I was like Jordan Phillips, and I was like, that's not right. Like, I just had certain guys attached with it.
And I literally both Bothroyd, and I had to like go look it up, and I was like, Rondell Bothroyd is on this team. Darn right he is. That's right.
I'm getting I hope he kills it. Like, I want a Bothroyd jersey. That's just such a
awesome
good name. Yeah. Who's your favorite player? Rondell Bothroyd.
Rondell Bothroyd, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Duh. He's not your favorite player? Scrub. So we've talked about the linebackers. Let's talk about the secondary. We'll group it as one whole because I don't think there was anything too crazy from the safeties. Daquan Hardy, man, just like inches away from, if he's a couple inches taller or bigger hands, he might have a couple interceptions tonight.
One would have been a pick six too.
Right, man. Just like Kyrie Elam had a nice flash on a play. Jamarcus Ingram making some plays. Benford had a couple nice moments as well. So the corners kind of making some noise a little bit tonight. To Corey Couch with a nice break up to like basically kind of end the game for the Steelers there on 4th down in the 4th quarter. But the corners continue to make some plays. Safety, we can talk about it, but a little bit uneventful as we kind of see what's happening there. But some, good plays from the Bills starting corners, but also from the depth guys who are really trying to compete and kind of make their mark a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Taryn, I think on the very first play of the game,
Man, where he
right
just went
there.
through when he went through Van Jefferson. It's cover 3. He drops to the flat, triggers, picks him, buries him the sideline. I loved it. He had a couple really nice tackles and finishes with the ones. Yeah.
Very first play that they went at Christian Benford, puts his foot in the ground, fires forward, closes down like
Yeah.
4 yards of cushion, like 4
In an
yards of
instant,
space.
breaks it up. And
And
I like the little flex too. He stood over. I'm like,
oh,
trying to catch it on me. Like,
um, so much so that I looked for the flag.
oh, fair. I
I
did the
like
same.
it was so much where I was like, give me 90% of that.
You know what I
Give me
always think? I always
90% of
think it's
that.
what I always think it's too much is when like when their teammate comes over to dap them up and they don't. Like someone came
Yeah.
over to dap up Benford, like good play, and he didn't acknowledge it because he
I'm
was still
not done.
staring down the
I'm
receiver.
not
Yeah,
done.
and I was like,
I'm
"Oh,
not
you're
I'm
pushing
still
it."
flexing.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
still
pushing
flexing.
it.
But yes, I love that they immediately flashed. I saw, Douglas didn't play a lot, but was in there. So I love seeing that. And then I liked it later on that Jamarcus Ingram continues to use his size
Mhm.
intelligently. I had somebody ask if it was weird how late Kyer Elam was playing, but they asked in like the mid 3rd quarter, and I was like, well, this is a game like some of the starters in this game, not starter game 1, we're still playing into the 3rd quarter. So I was like, well, I
Yeah,
mean, he is the 3rd corner, and this is
yeah.
when the backup guy would come in. So I don't think he was playing with like street free agents and things like that. But I am going to look.
It was
The
him and
that I was,
Ingram and Hardy
yeah,
consistently through like the 3rd, and
which is
those
the
are all
second
like the
team. Like
second
that's the
team
second
dudes.
team
The
corners.
one thing that was interesting with that was this week Ingram being inside and Hardy being outside again.
Yeah.
So instead of Hardy being the 3rd team, one of the 3rd team outside corners, he was the 2nd team outside corner, and they bumped Ingram inside to the slot, which I thought was interesting.
Ingram's size in the slot is super interesting to me
Yeah.
as the tight end weapon. That we obviously saw them dabble with that with Saran Neal for a couple
Mhm.
years, and it's the one thing that Taron doesn't have. Like Taron plays bigger than his size belies, and
Yes.
like good for him. Like he's able to play bigger than what his natural size is, but
Yes.
that does matter when it's Mark Andrews, when it's George Kittle, when it's
Absolutely.
Travis Kelsey. So having a guy, and Jamarcus Ingram is darn close to as big as what Saran Neal was. Having
Mhm.
a guy with that frame and his shoulder width and arm length, like he's just a big
And his
dude.
play style, like
Um,
the physicality, like he
yes.
wants to
Oh
jam
God.
you, he wants to get at you, like he wants the physicality, he welcomes it.
Yeah. So I love the idea of him seeing a path in the future as that overhang
Yeah.
star, big nickel kind of
Mm,
setup. So, um, I like that. And again, the one thing that does get away from me, especially in the second half of these preseason games where it's hard to stay as locked in on all the normal things I'm tracking, I
mm,
do like to watch the snap count. Shout out to Sal Capaccio. He's always first on the scene with those. So
mm,
tomorrow morning I'll watch Sal send out the snap count look, and I'm gonna look and see like, hey, did the guys that I expected to rotate in the same number of drives after the starters, did they all look normal? Does anybody stand out to me?
mm.
And then I am going to look, like I said, there was something to, Deion Jones is playing real late versus
Real
Andreessen
late.
playing early, Ulafosio playing late versus early. Some of those things I'm going to look at to see like, hey, who else came in and who was playing later on. Um, last week Kendall Williamson was playing pretty early and he
Mhm.
played much later in this game.
Yeah, the
So
the the starting safeties were
Cam
Cam
Lewis.
Lewis and
Yeah.
Rapp, and then the second team was Kareem Jackson and,
Was it Burgess
uh, it was no, it's
or Delaney?
no, it was why am I blanking? But it wasn't with Williamson, I thought. Damn it, now I feel like I gotta go back.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so annoyed at myself right now.
Um, Yeah, I mean, Burgess, Williamson, Jackson, Delaney, obviously Bishops and Edwards weren't playing.
Maybe it
Hamlin
was
didn't play.
no.
Did Mike Edwards play?
I don't know. It wasn't Edwards.
He didn't
Maybe it was
play.
still with Cam Lewis, but it wasn't. I was like, oh, okay, here come the second team safeties. And it was Kareem Jackson and not Kendall Williamson. And I was
Okay.
like, oh,
I
that's
thought it was
interesting.
Terrell Burgess, but maybe
Maybe
not.
it was Burgess, but it wasn't
Uh,
Kendall Williamson, if I
yeah.
recall correctly.
Yeah,
And I
and
thought that was
so
interesting.
Kendall Williamson was my Joe Andreessen guy last week in the sense of like, hey, why is this guy like early in the game was a number that I was like, wait, why is this guy in the game so early?
Mm.
Like we did with Andreessen on the first snap, where it's like, oh, I didn't even realize this guy was playing. He's playing right now. Williamson was that guy for me against the Bears. So then this week it was noticeable to me that he wasn't even like he was third string. It switched back pretty significantly. So we'll have to check. That's what I look for a lot in some of these things is who played in what order
Yes.
and who played before the other guys. And that's some of that stuff I got to go back and look at after the game.
I am furious with myself that I can't friggin' remember. I just
I'm just
remember
excited.
I remember being like, oh, Kareem Jackson with the twos, and then I was like, or maybe I'm just gonna stop talking about it. But yeah, I like continuing to see the corner depth and actually hold on, Paul. We got a super chat. Appreciate you, Carl, for being here consistently. You're one of the best supporters for this show, for the brand as a whole. And thank you very much for the super chat. Carl says, good game for all three squads. Yes, we're going to end with some positive stuff about special teams. And then Carl says, any word on MVS's neck? No, we have not heard anything other than
I'm
just
just doing a quick search right now.
yeah, I didn't see any. I didn't see anything from Bill's PR, any notes or anything. It was nice that he walked off on his own.
Yes,
And they were kind of moving his
but
neck
did not
and
look
doing different
happy.
things. Yes, and I don't know if he didn't look happy because it was something serious or he was just pissed that he got hurt in general. It's always hard to kind of read into it.
Hard to know.
But yeah, we don't know as of this point. So hopefully we'll get some stuff on that. Or maybe Greg will read something breaking as we kind of go.
Yeah, I just a quick search here under any
it.
of the initial terms. I don't see any update.
So hopefully we'll get something in the coming days and kind of see. Oh, Marcus says he walked off the field but was carted to the locker room.
Yes.
Interesting. That could also just be protocol or safety precaution because it's a neck injury. They might just want to limit. But and that goes back to our earlier conversation. Neck stuff is so scary. Like the hit that hurt Micah Hyde on that Monday night game against Tennessee a couple years ago, that didn't look like anything. And it wrecked his neck and knocked him out and changed this. Like it just, you never know. That stuff there's so much fidelity when it comes to it. Yeah, it's absolutely scary. But yeah, solid for the Bills corners in this game. It's nice. I came into training camp very much like I love Benford and Douglas. I'm worried about the rest of the corner depth on the outside because Kyer has been shaky at times. I don't know what we're going to get with Jamarcus Ingram. And I think Jamarcus Ingram, for me personally, has exceeded my expectations. Kyer has been solid in games.
And
like
Daquan Hardy was a nickel only, if not even I even kind of had in my head, hey, is he just a Taiwan Jones where like he's a running back in name only, but he's not. I wondered, is Daquan Hardy even a corner at all? And
exactly. Or just the returner. Exactly.
Yeah, he's absolutely a playable.
Like Devin Hester used to be a cornerback when he was first drafted. It's like, no, he's a returner. He's not playing any actual defense. And the fact that Hardy continues like to get some work in the slot, but the fact that he's working outside, even though he is a smaller guy, and tonight he had, despite not coming up with those picks, he had a couple really nice plays on the ball, like good driving on it, good vision, good feet. One that I rewound the broadcast, and I'm pretty sure it was towards the bottom of the screen. Steelers were going from right to left, and it's cover 3, and he lets the vertical route go to the safety, and he picks up the inside corner route and drives on it and makes a play on the ball. It helps force the incompletion. Like he just continues to play well, which is nice to see. Like you can never have too many corners. Like corner and offensive line, guys are always going to get banged up. You need to be able to roll dudes out there. Anything else on the corners or anything on the safeties? I thought the safeties were pretty uneventful, as like everything. That it just, especially against how the Steelers passed the ball, and then anytime they ran the ball, Andreessen was making the tackle, so it didn't even get to the safeties. That's kind of half joking, but also kind of half serious. Anything on the safeties or any other corners for you?
No, I thought that was it.
Cool. Some small special teams notes. Sam Martin looked really good tonight.
Yes.
Really good punts, booming the ball, which is nice to see because he was not consistent last week. And
I'll even average 52.8.
Crazy. Very good. And I'll even take some less, just be consistent. Like, I don't want to see the booms and then the shanks. Just give me like on a scale of 1 to 10, just give me 6.5 and 7 punts all the time. I don't need the 9s if they're also going to come with like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah.
And he had some really good punts tonight. And to your point earlier, like we talked about, the coverage was really good. Jamarcus Ingram made a really good play. Javon Solomon made a really good play. Kingsley Jonathan popped the hell out of somebody. I don't remember if it was a punt or a kick return. We got good special teams coverage, in addition to the kicking game in general. And then we got some field goals that were made tonight. I thought special teams were a little more buttoned up, as I think the whole team was, especially in juxtaposition with how they were last week, which was just undisciplined and sloppy as a whole.
Yeah, I didn't look at the total penalty count this game. It felt like less. What do we have here? Yeah. So we went from like 11, came down a little bit. There was some more procedural ones later on, but came back the right direction. And like nothing happened to Tyler Bass. He didn't get bad at kicking. It sadly, it's like golf. We saw Chuck Knobloch. We've seen the baseball Yankee.
The
Like
yips.
the yips are real. So for me, all that matters right now is rebuilding confidence. And Tyler Bass is 5 for 5. He's made his first 5 kicks. None of them have been that long or impressive. That's it. One was like a 48, 50 yarder. So one was very legit. Tonight was like 26, 27, and 31. But they all went through the uprights. And him seeing the ball go through we know he's capable of being a really good kicker. All of us are anxious and nervous, and all of us are going to be very, very anxious in a critical game, end of game scenario where it really, really matters. But right now, to get to that point, he's just got to make kicks, and he's making kicks. He's made his first 5 in a row. It's 5 for 5. That's all we can ask. Like he's not missing. I even was like today were clean too. Like it was not like squeakers. They were all like nicely made down the middle, good kicks. Those are important for him to see. Those are important for him to visualize because it rebuilds his confidence. I want to see the swag one black kicker back out here. That's half the battle. Is just him getting that back in his head and him watching every kick go through the uprights matters, even if they're easy ones. He's supposed to make it, but we need to build back to that, and this is going down that path.
I don't care if they're gimmies and everybody else got a 97% success rate of going in. I don't care. I want to see him make the kick. I want him to feel that feeling and know just like, cool, he can make it. He can hit his helmet on his holder's helmet and be like, sweet, and dap everybody up, and he goes back to the sideline confident. Like, that's perfect. Like, and I was even... part of me, when they had like 4th and short down there, I was like, go for it. And then I was like, you know what? No, let Bass kick so he can build confidence, because I don't care if they win this game or not. Like, let's continue to build confidence for Tyler Bass, because come live bullets, it'll matter, like we saw in the playoffs last year against the Kansas City Chiefs. Anything else? Special teams, coaches, anything and everything potentially on your mind that you want to speak on before we wrap up here?
I'm still mad at all the coaches that they won't let me see what the real dynamic kick is going to look like. They just keep doing the vanilla stuff, and I know this isn't what it's really going to be like, but like, just show me something. Like, show me some of the stuff. It could be fun. Let us have fun. I want to see the fun. So I am very excited for week 1. I am very excited to see the real kick returns across the league, all the different teams. I'm super excited to see it. I just wish it would happen right now. I want it now.
That's fair. Devin Hester is one of my favorite players of all time. And so I am, I loved Dante Hall when he was with the Chiefs doing the human joystick thing. So I'm a big fan of good return play. I'm probably way more excited than most, or I even should be, for the new kickoff dynamics. And I just want to see it matter again. And I want to see all the crazy stuff and reverses. And I want to see the blocking unit basically running like trap and power as if they're an offensive line, even though they're not. Like, I just want to see stunts from the coverage unit. I'm excited for how that kind of plays out. Any parting thoughts on this game going forward? Anything at all?
So obviously the biggest thing with these games is health. We did not leave flawless. I think some guys we got to check on. It doesn't seem like we had any out of MVS. That's the close to the most significant. And any like primary starters. Doesn't seem like anything that direction. And I don't expect those guys to play in the third preseason game. So I think we've now survived preseason reasonably healthy. We'll
Yeah.
see some of these other guys where they're at, when Bishop and Edwards make their way back, how MVS is, things like Javon Solomon and those kind of pieces. But I feel good that way. And tonight should have been a little bit of a reassurance about where it is. Yes, the market's talking about I want to see
Yeah,
pulling
same. So do
blockers and
I.
kick
Give it to
return.
me.
We're gonna see so much cool stuff when this happens for real. It's gonna be great. I can't wait. But we should feel good. We should feel good going into the season. Because I know you haven't got to see him much this preseason, but you guys get to root for Josh Allen. And
Right.
that's fun. And I'm looking forward to rooting for Josh Allen and watching Josh Allen play football. And I'm not gonna ever take it for granted. That's awesome. We get to root for my, you know, who feel very, very comfortably. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. The Chiefs fans are very, very lucky. I have no problem saying Josh Allen is the most fun player to root for in the NFL. His
Hmm.
style of play, his personality, his capabilities, the way that he puts himself and his body out there on the line for his team, the way that he plays for his city and is a representative of his city, he is the most fun player to root for in the NFL, and that guy's on our team.
Mm.
That's
Well said.
awesome.
Well
I
said.
use this analogy all the time. My neighbor across the street is an 11-year-old boy born and raised in Cleveland. His parents are born and raised in Cleveland. His parents are Browns fans. My neighbor Brady is a Bills fan and has
Man.
and has a Josh Allen jersey. And his dad, I helped him get tickets to the preseason game next week because he wants to go watch the Bills play. That didn't happen my whole life.
Yeah.
My whole life. Like that didn't, and now that happens because Josh Allen is kids' favorite player because he's awesome and it's really fun, and we get to root for him, and I'm not gonna take it for granted.
Well said. My big moment for that with realizing things was when like fantasy leagues that I was in with non Buffalo people were taking Bills players like early
Yeah.
when it was like, especially when Diggs and Allen were blowing up, and like Diggs was being taken in the first and Allen was being taken in the second, and I was like, oh my god. Or like I would see
Yeah.
the group chats and the messages of being like, yo, like, what do you want for Josh Allen, and the trade attempts and this and that. And I was like, oh wow. And these are like non-Buffalo people. A lot of them are for like my boys and that from New York City who like hate the Bills and think the Bills are a joke of a franchise. But yeah, they wanted a piece of Josh Allen, like they wanted a piece of those Bills teams. And I was like, oh, it's changed. Like I've never felt this way before. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's good to see another week towards real football,
Yeah.
towards Josh Allen and the
We're almost
starters
there.
potentially running some things there. We got one more preseason game to go and then some time off, and then the regular season opener against the Arizona Cardinals. So I just want to say now, don't sleep on the Cardinals. They're way more fun than they get credit for, and they got some personnel groupings offensively that could do some damage. So I'm excited to see that opening game for the schematic chess matchup between Bills and Cardinals, but just see some real Bills football in general. Next week, Bills Panthers. We'll see how much the starters play. If not, we'll continue to see these depth battles between the corners and the offensive linemen and the receivers, and see what kind of moving and shaking happens. Even the running back position, although it does seem like kind of set to a degree, get another opportunity to see, Frank Gore Jr. and Evans and these guys who've been kind of balling out a little bit, and tight end room as well. So we'll kind of see what happens going forward. But that will do it for us here on this post-game edition of Disguise Coverage. We want to thank all you folks who joined us live here on this episode. If you have not already, please, 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 thank you. Drop a like on this video. They are the lifeblood of these streams. While you're here on YouTube, turn on notifications for the Disguise Coverage playlist. Subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. We have you covered pretty much every single day of the week, especially once the season starts. And Greg and Aaron do the regular post-game shows. We pretty much have you covered 6 out of 7 days, roughly, when it comes to Buffalo Bills content in various forms and fashions. So subscribe to the Cover One channel. If you are listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool as well. Please rate and review and subscribe on those platforms as well. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome this show is and how awesome the brand is. If you thought the show was terrible, tell your enemies and try and get them to watch it and ruin their day by making them watch this show. Appreciate all the kind words that came through for myself and Greg throughout this episode. Thank you very much to your boy Lettuce, Cole, so past local, I think I'm saying that right, Michael Hill, and then Carl for your super chats and just for being here in general. Thank you very much for that. And thank you very much to everybody again who was here live all the back and forth with each other, the back and forth with myself and Greg, the questions, thoughts, comments, all that kind of stuff. We greatly appreciate it and are very thankful for that. And yeah, we hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Enjoy the remaining 14 minutes of your Saturday night if you are on the East Coast. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.